Well, with Trump's April 2nd tariff deadline just around the corner, you got to be asking yourself, what the heck is going to happen? There's so much uncertainty in the markets and there's so much fear, uncertainty, and doubt that it's just so much volatility and everyone's just freaking out. If you're a Bitcoin holder, you're really going to want to watch this because I have a slightly different spin on all of these things. And as always, every single day in cryptos and adventures. So make sure to stay tuned, subscribe, like, share, do all those things. And with that, let's get into talking about what these April 2nd deadlines means. There's, in my mind, there's really three things that are happening April 2nd. Trump said he's going to put a 25% tariff on imported automobiles and parts. And so obviously, car manufacturing is a big part of our industry. Car purchasing is a big part of our lifestyle. And so this could have a serious potential disruption on global supply chains. And also could affect prices of cars and vehicles in the United States or jobs in the United States. It could bring a lot more jobs here, or it could have people losing their jobs because, well, there's not cars being bought because the prices have gone up so much. But there's a whole bunch of uncertainty, and that alone affects markets. Second major thing that's happening is tariffs on countries importing Venezuelan oil. Now, obviously, Venezuela is a communist type party, socialist, and it's on the Western Hemisphere. Some would say this would affects the Monroe Doctrine or whatever that says you can't have certain types of stuff going on this side of the world or whatnot. But, obviously, Venezuela has not been the biggest friend to America. They export a lot of oil to China. I think China accounts for 68% of Venezuelan oil bought. So obviously, if we can cut that off, it affects China, because if we're going to, affect countries that import oil to them and we're going to tariff them importing stuff to us, well, ergo, China gets taxed more. Reciprocal trades or tariffs on trade partners. So if you have a tariff on the United States, well, they're going to say, look, if you're tariffing us, we're going to tariff you. Basically, all in all, April 2nd is kind of a deadline for the world global trade war that might happen or not happen. Maybe it'll be pushed off, maybe it won't be, but just the uncertainty of all of this creates lots of problems. And let's take a look at some of those problems. Let's take a look at this. Again, if you're a Bitcoin holder, what are you looking at Bitcoin? Bitcoin is doing pretty well. It's holding its own. It's around 85,000-ish. I don't know, maybe it went up or down in the last couple of minutes. Who knows? But, Bitcoin is against all the other cryptos out there. Bitcoin has been holding its value way, way better. It's almost becoming that digital gold or that store of value that we had hoped it had become or more. Now look at this. The dominance of Bitcoin, it's at 61.2%. We haven't seen that since, January, was that April of 2021. So 4 years ago, having cycles, it started to dip significantly, and then we saw an altcoin season. Is that going to happen again? Are we at the peak of Bitcoin dominance? Is it going to go higher? Or have we seen that, we're about to have an altcoin season? Well, again, I told you I had a little bit different take, and I'll get to that in a second. Crypto bubbles. Man, this day, we're, everything 8-9% down. Yesterday, we were good. Still up on the week on a lot of things, but just barely holding on to some games. Crow, with all that news with, Donald Trump and Crow in the United States and a lot of other acronyms, Crow has done very well. Very well. Curve, done okay. AVAX, ton. Pepe, 7%. Bonk. Some of the meme coins scratching their way back. But let's look. Everyone says Bitcoin is different, but is it really different than equities? Gold reacts differently than equities. Sometimes they rise together and sometimes they fall together. But depending on the event, they act differently. But if you look at gold or Bitcoin versus equities, the correlation, Bitcoin rose, but look at the spikes correlate. You have now this one dipped in 2020. What is this? This is the S&P 500. This right here is Bitcoin's price. So look at this. The S&P 500 obviously dipped, in that peak of COVID, right when they announced everything's shutting down in March. It dipped. Well, Bitcoin didn't. Bitcoin rose in the future and it kind of spiked together. It spiked here, but there is a slight correlation, not huge, but is it going to diverge? Is Bitcoin going to become digital gold? Well, I think April 2nd might help us determine that just a little bit better. And here's where my spin takes off just a little bit. Let's consult ChatGPT here. I look at it as, is it going to become a flight to quality? Now, is Bitcoin going to be that flight to quality? If equities are tanking, are people going to sell their equities because they're worried about this uncertainty? And are they going to buy Bitcoin? Hasn't really fully happened yet. We've seen Bitcoin dump with equities, and we've seen gold rise to all-time highs. But what's going to happen? Could this inflation pressure, like if things cost more, that's inflation by definition, is that going to cause a flight to quality to gold and to the digital gold, Bitcoin? It's possible, and we're really going to see this. If there is a flight to quality, is that money going to fly to gold, or is it going to fly, some of it, is it going to fly to bonds, or will some of it fly to Bitcoin? This is going to be a true test, De-dollarization. Well, shoot, if we reduce reliance on the US dollar and we're looking at more blockchain alternatives, is Bitcoin going to play a role in that? So this April 2nd has significance. The April 2nd is the day that Trump is going to enact these tariffs we talked about. But is this going to be, are we going to see the flight to gold? Are we going to see the flight to Bitcoin? Or is it going to be a non-event because things are going to happen, last minute deals will be made and everyone's going to shake hands and be happy, which has happened before? Or is Trump going to push it off and this is just another threat to get the Fed to see, we want to prolong this pain to pull down the markets to get the Fed to lower rates? Now, I already think the Fed has other plans. I think they're going to hold those rates as high as possible for as long as possible. They're going to make mortgage-backed securities suffer, take the sales from the mortgage-backed securities that they're doing for quantitative tightening and buy treasuries. So they're going to be tightening on mortgage-backed securities, loosening on treasuries to make the short, midterm 10-year yields go down, keep mortgage rates high to keep that market suppressed when there's a huge flow of money that needs to find a home. Are they going to find it in real estate? Are they going to find it in bonds, gold, Bitcoin, crypto, equities? So there's a lot going on in the world right now. If you look at this chart, everyone talks about global money supply, and that is the biggest factor, in my opinion. The correlation is huge between global money supply and the price of Bitcoin. We had a divergence a couple times along the last, 10, 12 years, a couple divergence, but for the most part, crypto rises with the global supply of money, and it makes sense. It diverges here, it diverges with the Trump, all the bullish news around Trump becoming president. But all in all, it rises with the money supply. Now it's caught up. It diverged, the money supply went up. I believe we've caught up. We're right here at an equilibrium. But I think we're going to see these two things rise together. And I think this is all speculation. I have no insider info. I read the news. I read the data. I look at charts. I look at graphs. This isn't financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These are my theories based on all the things I see. So what I see is it diverging, and I think it's going to rise up together, the price of Bitcoin and the global money supply. Despite anything that happens on April 2nd, I am still very bullish long-term on Bitcoin with all the things happening in the world, countries adopting it. In our case, many states are adopting a strategic Bitcoin reserve. You have legislation. You have the Genius Act that for stable coins, and that's going to bring a huge amount of money into the crypto world. So all these things, and yet look at this, fear and greed. We're still like super fearful about these things. We're more fearful now, even though there's becoming a more and more clear path for crypto than we were when crypto was like, everyone was being fined and jailed and debanked and all these things based on crypto. So it's crazy to me, but yeah, it's what we're dealing with. Altcoin season, 16 out of 100. We're not in altcoin season. I'm pretty sure you know that. So all that being said, I will tell you this, is that the outlook for crypto, in my opinion, for Bitcoin is very strong. We have a telling date on April 2nd. And if the market goes, if the equities market tanks, what's Bitcoin going to do? Will it tank at the same rate? Will it tank at a lower rate? Will it go up? Will there be a flight to quality to Bitcoin? My opinion is that this is tough because there's such an X factor in Trump. He might just turn around and say something crazy. He might have cut deals by then. I'm sure everyone's scrambling to figure this out. And, just like they always come together to put together a budget at the midnight hour, is a deal going to be put together? If a deal's put together, I'm going to look at Bitcoin going to soar potentially. Not financial advice. This is just my opinion. Don't go out and act on this. But if they do put together a deal and that April 2nd date is a non-event, you're going to see equities and crypto react in kind. if they hold strong and they start tariffing the crap out of other countries, expect other countries to tariff the crap out of us, even if they're already tariffing us, and for some reason they just want to be more tariffing, then you're just going to see a war of that. It's going to last a couple months until someone wears out. And then you're going to see the Fed pump money into our economy, and then Bitcoin is going to rise. Any way you look at it, it's a bullish outcome for Bitcoin. So that being said, I hope you got some value out of this. If you did, like, subscribe, share. If you made it this long, just do me one simple solitary favor. Hit the like button and be a subscriber. With that, I will see you next time.